Hi, good morning and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for taking time and choosing to be with us for the next 60 minutes for our session, Democratizing Coaching, a Social Responsibility Initiative. Well, the definition of democratizing coaching is pretty wide, but for us at SRI, the definition is the provision of professional coaching and mentoring services to the underprivileged at a pro bono basis. And echoing the words of Dr. Riza, although it may look like not much has happened since 2 years ago, since we're still having Zoom conferences, but I'm happy to report that the SRI, the Social Responsibility Initiatives team, has done quite a lot of work for the past 2 years. It has transpired a lot. And this is not possible without your participation and your volunteerism. Now, one of the perks of my voluntary work as the head of Global Social Responsibility Initiatives and the founding VP of Social Responsibility Initiative for the Asia Pacific region is that I get to see the firsthand the authenticity, the generosity, and the volunteerism of the EMCC Global members. Why do I say that? It's because every time we launch a social responsibility initiative, it is always oversubscribed of volunteers. We never lack volunteers. It is always our project leaders turning down volunteers. I still get emails from time to time from volunteers asking when's the next project that's coming up. And that makes me very proud to be volunteering at EMCC. And I tell that to everybody else why I spend all my time here in the EMCC. And I believe that is a tradition that comes out of a long tradition of giving, selflessness, and the inspiration to actually transform lives through our coaching practices and mentoring practices that is inbred in EMCC. Much work has already been done at local chapters, and also the solidarity that was under Liz Lewis before I come on board. And thank you again for your generosity and also your true desire to transform lives at your generosity of your time and your professionalism, professional skills. Now, for this presentation of democratizing coaching, instead of me giving you a boring presentation, a 1 hour presentation, I'm delighted that our coaches, our project leaders, are going to host 3 different fireside chats with their NGO partners. And in this conversation of what transpired in their project, the outcome, and also the so the fireside chat will be Impact Before Income Nigeria. Now, this project is actually co-led by Christina Dimitrados and Vimala Supia. Christina is a professional leadership coach, personal leadership coach, and coach supervisor and trainer. She's also the recipient of the 2019 Global Coaching Award. Vimala is an executive leadership coach, PCC, and she's the founder of Game Change Coaching Consultancy. Of course, we are also very happy to have Mr. Kevin Ayeni with us, the founder of Impact Before Income. The theme of this fireside chat is actually youth and entrepreneurship. Before I pass the floor to Christina, there's one single reminder is that we have allocated time for Q&A within each fireside chat. So if you have questions for them, please ask within that fireside chat. And of course, you can also use the chat box to raise any questions that you have. We'll try to get it answered. And over to you, Christina, to start your fireside chat. Good luck.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you so much, Ivan. Thank you for the invitation and for all your support throughout our project. And I'm going to get the baton from you and say a big shout out to all our volunteers who have been absolutely amazing. And without them, we couldn't have done this project. And I would like to pass the baton to Vimala. Let me just quickly share my screen. Well, you've already introduced us. Just to say my surname is Dimitriadis. I know it's very long and complicated, and it always gives people trouble. I'm sorry about that. Now, Vimala, I would like to ask you, with this cue, can you share with us why this project was created?
Thank you, Christina, and thank you, Ivan, for introducing us. So before I start talking about why, I'd like to talk about how it started. At the moment, my internet is unstable, so bear with me. So in order to put it all in context, put this project in context, I'd like to say a few words about how it started. It started with, Christina, if I can have the first PowerPoint.
I am sharing the first slide. Okay. Can people see it? Can others see it? Helen is nodding.
Yes, I can see it.
It's on.
Okay, right. Okay. So this is how it started. It was February 2020. And as I was going through my Facebook comments late at night, I came across this statement that was said by Kevin. And that got me curious. And I Facebook because I wanted to know more about what that statement meant and what it was, what is it that it's referring to. And that led Kevin to have a long conversation, many conversations, during which time I shared with him that I had done a project through EMCC projects that in KL, and I shared that with him and I invited him to come and see whether he would be part of a project. I had nothing in my head at that moment, but I invited him and he said yes. I then met Christina. Christina happened to be in Kuala Lumpur. I live in Kuala Lumpur. I live and work in Kuala Lumpur. And Christina was there. And over 6 hours, I think, and over a glass of wine, Christina and I shared what we were doing. And Christina said about the work she did in Cyprus with NGOs. So I shared with her this conversation I'd had with this young man called Kevin, and to come along and do this project. At that time, both of us didn't have a plan as such, but we both said, yes, let's do it. Then contacted Ivan and I shared it with him and he said yes. And so this is how this project came about. On the why, I mean, the world is in a turmoil, as all of you know, and what is happening within the turmoil is VUCA is here to stay. So when it comes to why coaches and the coaching bodies need to take on social responsibility initiatives, it is from my point of view, it is a must, and and we can do it. We are in a very privileged position with our clients, and when talking CEOs or team or managers, we can just ask one simple question: where do you see yourself in all this turmoil and VUCA and change that's going on to impact what needs to be done for the betterment of the world? And also, we have a duty, the community, and this is where we came from, and I'm coming from. And having done one project in Kuala Lumpur, this project has actually given enormous challenges, but an amazing amount of pleasure, because we see the results, which is what Kevin is going to share with you. So on the why, basically, we can and we must. Thank you. So, Kevin, I will ask the question, Kevin. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing great.
Okay. So having said what I've said, what is the impact the project brought for you and for your NGO? And what progress have you made?
Okay, thank you so much, Coach Vimela. Thank you, everyone. It's a great pleasure to share with you all the impact this project has had on us and the progress so far. Say, in a society where most people are less productive and dependent, they tend to become more problem to the society. So that's why Simple Before Income, we imagine a world where we produce more people that seek to produce more than they need so that they can have enough to share. And that's why we are helping young individuals to transform their talent to skills, and then their skills to business. So it was a great delight for us when we met with Coach Vimela, and she introduced us to the Social Responsibility Project. We were really glad and excited about it and took the opportunity. And the impact has been enormous so far, because before the project, we didn't really have more a solid structure. We had no board of trustees. But right now, we have a 5-member board of trustees, and 4 of them were participants of the coaching program, which for us, and that has enabled us to begin the legal process to get registered as an NGO. And also on a platform level, our members are growing. Before the project, we had just about 5 self-reliant individuals, but right now we have over 20 of them, and the number is still growing. So we believe that this coaching project has really provided us with the mental tools to be able to navigate through the current challenges we are facing in our society right now. And it has really impacted us. And right now, we are not just dreaming anymore of creating a better society for ourselves. We know that it is possible because we have been equipped through this coaching. So we want to say a very big thank you to EMCC Global for making this happen. And only our results can really tell how grateful we are. So thank you so much. And to all the volunteer coaches, we are really, really grateful. So I would love to ask Coach Christina, how did EMCC make such a wonderful experience happen?
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you so much for taking us through the positive impact created by our project. I will share with our audience the timeline because I think it will be helpful to actually have a look at the specific steps. There were a lot of steps involved in this project from February 2020, where I was traveling in Malaysia and I reached out to Vimala to meet up, and she told me about the chat she had with Kevin, and it was a many-hour conversation. I think it was more than 1 glass of wine, Vimala. Otherwise we would have been really thirsty. Quite inspiring, and right there and then the seed was planted for this social responsibility project in Nigeria. Now, from March to the summertime, Vimala and I worked laboriously to set this up because there was a lot of research that had to be done. We spoke to a lot of stakeholders. We spoke to a lot of people in charge in EMCC Global, including Ivan, of course, who supported us from the beginning. There was a lot of fine-tuning. You know, I had my experience from Cyprus working with NGOs, coaching with NGOs, and then Vimala had her experience from Malaysia. So we brought it together. We saw what worked, what could have worked better. And then we combined our research, qualitative, quantitative, our experience, and we set up the project. By summertime, we were ready to send the call out for volunteers. And as Ivan said, we were not short of applications. We had a lot of applications from people all over the world, very highly qualified. We were so touched and inspired and excited to go through such amazing profiles of colleagues. So we completed the selection by August, which brought together 27 EMCC volunteers, about 30 global volunteers, because we had volunteers outside EMCC as well, from 16 countries and 5 continents, which is absolutely amazing and inspiring on its own. So bringing everyone together, we had already given out job descriptions. We had contracts to sign between the volunteers and EMCC Global. We had a project management team, which consisted of Vimala and myself as co-leaders. Then we had a coach coordinator and a project administrator. Then we added a project liaison as well. I'll take you through how that happened. So the onboarding of the volunteers happened on the 9th of September, 2020. And then right after that, we could support volunteer coaches in going ahead and offering their coaching sessions. Now, we need to say a thank you to TalentX because they sponsored a psychometric profiling of all the coaches and any coaches who were interested. And they also provided one-to-one guidance to the coaches as to how to interpret and maximize the use of the results of these psychometric tests. So this was helpful. It was helpful to have this preparation for the coaches because, as I said, it was a multicultural team. The whole project volunteers cohort was multicultural, and this, of course, made us anticipate some communication fine-tuning might be necessary, or how to interpret stuff culturally. And the psychometric test brought the scientific aspect, which was very helpful. We also made sure that EMCC Global quality standards were upheld. So we had coaching volunteers who provided context-specific supervision, coaching supervision volunteers, excuse me. They provided context-specific supervision to the volunteer coaches, and this proved to be very helpful as they shared with us. The context-specific meaning, this was happening in the midst of the pandemic. In lockdown, we were all going through different challenges on a group level, on an individual level, on a professional level. So we were called to manage something that hadn't happened to us before. It was unprecedented, and it was all digital. And as we will mention a little bit later on, one of the challenges was internet connectivity. So that was interesting to see how people handled it. We also provided supervision for the supervisors. So it was something we made a point of, to give as much support as we could to our volunteers. And we also did a mid-term evaluation around December of 2020. This gave us the opportunity to see what worked, what didn't work with our volunteers, and improve things as much as we could. Now, interestingly, there was an armed robbery and 3 of our coaches were victims. Then EMCC Global helped us support our coaches and did a fundraiser, which was absolutely amazing and inspiring because it showed the warm hearts of the EMCC community globally. We raised more than enough money to help our coaches buy the devices that were stolen from them so that they could continue participating in the project, since it was all done digitally. And in the meantime, we had another challenge. We became aware that one of our project team members, one of the key professionals, volunteers in the project, had serious health issues. So we had to recruit a new coach coordinator and onboard them. This happened parallel to the robbery and the fundraising. It was a very interesting month, December 2020. So we did that in December, and then by January, February, the final evaluation was done. Again, thanks to TalentX for supporting us with the final evaluation and producing individual evaluation reports for the volunteer coaches and supervisors based on their supervisees and coaches' feedback and their own self-evaluation. And by April 2021, the final report encompassing everything was out. And here, let me just show you what it looks like. Of course, it's in digital form. I will put the link to the report in the chat for everyone to have a look at, and it's also on the EMCC Global website. But with this cue, I would like to pass the baton back to Vimala for a minute to share with us her highlights from the report.
Thank you, Christina. Gosh, just listening to all of that, it just reminded me what amazing work we did. You and me and everyone, who was involved in the project. So for me, the highlight is really the shareholders' collaboration, because in order to do this project, we involved so many people and also so many stakeholders, and even provided supervision. So it's really the stakeholder collaboration that stands out for me. But just to add another one, it's this amazing fellowship that we embodied and experienced throughout the project. So that's my highlights. And Kevin?
Yeah, thank you so much. I think the highlight for me is the exemplary leadership shown by EMCC Global. Honestly, I feel the leaders of the world needs to learn from EMCC Global, because it's amazing to see that an organization could care enough for a group of individuals somewhere in the world that they don't even know at all. So it's really exemplary for us, and it's a great example to learn from. I personally am learning a lot from that, and I'm really grateful. And it's showed even to the coaches, the volunteer coaches, they also showed that patience, that endurance during the whole process. So we're really grateful for that. That's my highlight. Thank you.
Christina?
And if I may share my highlights was the challenges and lessons. This is 2 pages, very interesting pages in the report, which again, we encourage you to have a look at. The first challenge I would like to go back to, because I did mention it, was interculturality. Now, we had stakeholders coming from 16 different nations, 5 different continents. This meant different cultures, different languages, different way of interpreting things. And this was a challenge that I'd like to believe we overcame with a lot of enthusiasm and effort that was needed. You know, I remember discussing even in the supervision sessions, because I also volunteered as a coaching supervisor, and we discussed this in the supervision sessions, and there were solutions that we came up with so that people got more accustomed to each other's accent, for example. You know, listening to each other's accent. My accent is Cypriot. You know, I don't know if everybody can follow perfectly. I do my best, but you know, everybody has a different accent. English is not our first language, and this was a big one to take into consideration. You know, often we ignore it, but it actually takes effort. So communication was affected. Now, this was also affected by the connectivity issues. Nigeria notoriously has connectivity issues, and a lot of coaching sessions were interrupted because of lack of internet connectivity. And we witnessed our volunteer coaches become so creative and so innovative with solutions in terms of using technology in different ways, using recorded messages, text messages, emails, different platforms. So we were very flexible and agile in order to make this work as a team. We cannot ignore the pandemic context, which affected us all individually and on a group level differently. So we were managing that on the side as a team and on our own as well. The armed robbery was a big challenge that showed us the warm generosity and the community spirit of EMCC Global. And I'd like to end with a couple of quotes from the report. One is, there was inspiring resourcefulness as a result of facing these challenges, as well as innovation in making coaching work under difficult circumstances by using a variety of communication tools. So this was one that touched me. And another one was, this initiative offered an exceptional opportunity to both create positive impact and to learn. So it was a great win-win for all. I want to thank you for your time with us by going to the message of the conference, United in Harmony. Yes, we can be united in harmony. It takes effort and it takes willingness and dedication, but we all win on the other side. This project for me demonstrated how supporting each other as human beings and as professional coaches, mentors, supervisors is so important in this conflict-ridden world that we live in. It's so, so important. So thank you for your attention. We're ready to take a couple of questions if people have them. If you want to either put them in the chat or just unmute yourselves and share with us live what question you may have, if there's any question.
Well, if there's no question, I would also like to add that for this project, someone says they can't unmute themselves.
Willem, would you like to ask it? So maybe we can unmute. Yes.
Yes, okay. You can. Willem, go ahead if you have a question.
Yes, because it said the host doesn't allow you to unmute yourself, but now I can speak. This is good in this world where lots of people are being told they cannot speak. That's a great project, Christina, and the others. My question is, maybe it's more for Kevin. I don't know. How did you find the people to be coached? What was the process that you used? I imagine the NGO played a role in that, but I'm just interested. How did you find them? Thank you. Great project.
All right. Thank you so much for that question. The people we coach that we submitted for coaching, they were already platform members. So we were already growing together, trying to convert our talent to skill, then to business. So when the opportunity came, it was easy to select the most serious and most committed among them. Yeah, thank you.
Well, thanks, William, for the question. And I just want to add a little bit more about this project. At the end of this project in 2021, I think, the British Association of Counseling and Psychotherapy reached out to me for a case study of how EMCC do something like this in a social context. And of course, this Nigerian Impact Before Income was then, they actually then quote this case study into their report, which they published, I think, late last year or early this year, I can't remember. And the title of the report is Coaching for Social Impact: How Coaching Enables Social Change and Positively Impact Lives by the BACP, the British Association of Counseling and Psychotherapy. So all in all, I think this is one of the kind of projects that I really hope we can do more. It's not just global in nature for the coachee, but also global in nature for us. And there's a long tail to it. You know, there are other associations that are looking to us to see how they can actually learn from us. So thanks, Christina, thanks, Vimala, and thanks, Kevin. So I'm going to move on to the next Fireside Chat. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, for the next Fireside Chat, it's an exciting Fireside Chat between Jill Arkell, our volunteer coach. She's the founder of the Ripple Effect Teams and Master Coach. And her counterpart NGO is Helen Cadwell, the acting CEO of School for Life in Uganda. This is an interesting project for us because this is a team coaching project, which Jill is leading a group of coaches do on a pro bono basis. And Helen leads a team that actually creates schools in Uganda for Ugandans. Over to you, Jill.
Thanks, Ivan, and thanks so much, Christina, Vimala, and Kevin for that fantastic overview. This is a different kind of project, I think, isn't it, Helen? It's more of a sort of deep dive into one organisation. So I got involved because I got an email from Sabah and Ivan saying we've signed an MOU with this amazing organisation, that Australian organisation that's created schools in Uganda. Do you want to get involved and lead the project? And I didn't really think too much about it. I went, sure, why not? And then it's been a learning journey, I think, as we've gone, Helen. But before we get into saying too much about the project, I might just hand over to you and you can share a video on School for Life.
Thank you, Jill. I think that'd be good. We'd provide some context and about what we do, and we can dive deeply into why the coaching and how the process has started, because the coaching element has only just started. Hold on one moment.
Yeah.
Oh.
Is not as easy as the picture can be.
I will start again.
Life in the villages is not as easy as the picture can be painted. For instance, a child will carry 10 kilograms of water every day, and not only once, but twice or 3 times. And that child is 10 or 9 years.
The challenges are really tough. Most of our kids live in mud huts. They don't even have a concrete floor or any windows. Many of them witness domestic abuse on a daily basis.
The parents drink a lot, and there are challenges of alcohol abuse.
There are no healthcare clinics, so if a child became sick with malaria, they could die.
If they are not lucky, they'll have to travel like 7-10 kilometers to go to school. People live in the villages because they don't have a choice. That is where they've been born. That is all they know, that is their life. They don't even know that I can have a planned family, my children will have an education, because they also didn't get an education. So there is no fair balance there. It isn't.
School for Life's vision is to educate poverty out of existence. In 2009, we bought 10 acres of jungle and we started to build the first 2 classrooms. We're now educating 1,400 students and we employ 125 people. The kids come to school every day. They receive 3 nutritious meals. We provide them with sport fields, solar electricity to enable access to IT and computer literacy, uniforms, books, boarding facilities, everything they need to be successful. But it's not just about the children. We believe passionately in local people and empowering them and providing them with the skills and capacity that they need to be successful. Things like access to healthcare clinics, clean drinking water, and vocational training skills for the adults as well.
The community at large, we have seen a massive change. There are less violation of children's rights. Parents are now together. Mother and father will come for the meetings together, and parents are seeing the importance of education. And the communities have grown. People are running to come and buy land in Katuso because they want to live in an area that has been improved and developed. It means so much to children coming to our schools. It makes the children feel confident and experience real joy, a place where they can experience love. You see one baby today, tomorrow will be a teenager who has a positive mind. They know where they are going. I would say thank you to the people that support School for Life, because every little donation that you make changes somebody's life. The next 10 years for School for Life, I want to have more schools. I want to change more children, more lives. Because there are so many children out there that need help that we have not touched yet.
Because at the end of the day, education gives freedom to children to create their own opportunities.
Thanks, Helen.
Thank you.
So Helen and I met in December last year. So we were only, 6 or 7 months into this project, and we've basically spent a lot of time contracting, I think, trying to get the foundations of this program right, so that once the coaching started, we were really clear about what the objectives were and how the coaching could support School for Life to achieve its mission and goals. So Helen, why coaching, and how did individuals get selected for coaching?
Yeah, I think why we wanted to do coaching, why we put an interest forward, was obviously the targeted, strong professional development tool that I think ultimately the not-for-profit sector doesn't really have easy access to. Because quite typically you don't put budget towards that type of very individual professional development, because the money is going really to that, in our case, to running of the schools. But in this case, we wanted coaching for a number of reasons, but, you know, 2 teams. We've got cross-culture team, one in Australia, really doing majority of the fundraising. And then obviously what you saw in Uganda is the 100, and it's now hovering around 140 staff in rural Uganda. But getting those 2 teams collaborating more efficiently and becoming a bit more interdependent was a key element, and we needed help to do that. I think, you know, we selected the people internally to be coached, you know, 1 in Australia and 3 in Uganda, because of their leaders in our business, and we want to engage them for the long-term success of what we do, and they will be the drivers of that collaboration and that efficiency between the 2 teams, but ultimately all driving as one core group, getting as more students as we can into school.
Beautiful. So we did, one of the earliest things we did was we had a strategy workshop to identify what was the purpose, the why for the coaching. And so that purpose was really about building the leadership capability in collaboration across this leadership team that was in Australia and Uganda in order to lift School for Life in general.
Absolutely. Oh, you go.
No, you go.
I think I was going to mention that it's quite a new team in terms of coming together. We've got five key individuals that really run all the operations in Uganda. They're all local people. They're all local Ugandans. A couple from Kenya as well have come in to be just under management team. So a real uplift of the local community, as Jennifer, who you didn't see but you heard on the video, was talking about. And I think that's really key. But then also, you know, new leaders that we're building and developing up on the Australian side from a fundraising perspective, and building that confidence working together was what we identified. But also, I think every not-for-profit, as you begin small, it's all heavily reliant on one single person, and that's the founder. So looking at how we can develop the skills of others, and now it's become even more necessary. As our founder, I'm the acting CEO, but she was a CEO before I came along. She's gone to have her baby, and you know, that shifts life, but also allows other growth and other people to identify areas that they can grow in and what they're passionate about. So that's what we found as our founder has stepped away, that many others are also quite capable of leading.
And so this has been one of the complexities of the project, hasn't it? Because kind of life gets in the way, and you start with quite a stable idea of what you want and what the organisation is, but then there was this change of the founder, who's been running running School for Life for 10 years.
Well, as you heard Annabelle there. Again, you didn't see her in the video, or you saw her briefly in one of the final scenes, but ultimately she's not really wanting to be the driver anymore. I think there's local Ugandans in particular that we're keen to build up to drive what happens on the ground, and we just support that. I think it's moving away from typically how other organisations have worked in and across Africa. But as you know, I wrote down what Kevin said, or what he initially said. What got Vimala really interested was that, you know, Africa has all the human talents. It's just the lack of mentors and coach to help them unleash the potential. I think that's absolutely how we operate as well, to support, in our case, as many local Ugandans as we can in those 2 small areas that we work in, which is just out of Kampala, called Mbazi and Katuso areas, which are really identified as quite, Katuso in particular is one of the more vulnerable regional areas just outside Kampala. So I think, yeah, absolutely living up to that as well, and help and getting that mentoring and coaching that EMCC are so kindly providing.
So then the next thing we did was we did a discovery, didn't we, of this leadership team. We went out for, I think we had about 12 people we interviewed. And so in Uganda and Australia, to try and understand where was, you know, what was it that people wanted from a coaching program? So if they were going to get leadership support, what in particular did that leadership support look like for them? What was going to be most relevant for them? And so part of that was to actually get their engagement in the project, but it was also so they could see their footprint in what the eventual design of the coaching project would look like. And so there were two things that were really clear about that. One was, you know, around individual coaching, and it was communication skills, it was how to give feedback, it was leadership skills, contemporary leadership skills as opposed to command and control kind of leadership skills. So they were those sort of typical leadership skill areas. But the other thing was this idea that if we all learn in tandem, then we can support each other as we go along on this journey, and we can share openly as we try things out. And if they don't work, we can share that because we're all going through this journey together. So as a result of that, we came up with this blended program of some one-on-one coaching. So each of these key people having one-on-one coaching, but also running a leadership team session, so that there was this team were also going through sessions together, and those sessions as leadership sessions in theory would alternate with the one-on-one coaching. So monthly one-on-one coaching, and then leadership team sessions that would be a week or two after the one-on-one coaching, and then coming together with the coaching team in between to sort of share learnings and make sure those learnings are then moving between those two parts of the program. And so we've kind of got to, that's kind of taken us, hasn't it? It's taken us really up until, well, so maybe I'll hand over to you and say, so what was some of the learnings that came out through this process that have informed the pace of the project?
Yes, and I think that's probably one key aspect to note when you're doing this. Again, it has to be the right time for the business to really work out well, for it to be most beneficial, obviously. And I mean, that sounds really quite basic, but sometimes it's not. It does take time to get to that point, and all the elements are working well together. And I think in our case, you know, we've done a lot of organizational building. As I said, it's a relatively new team. We've actually had 2 new people join since this coaching, and they're not getting coached, but it's almost like we want them to be there as well. So, you know, there's more opportunity there. I think, as I said, our founder stepped away. So there's new leaders in Australia as well, working together. There's strategy development. So that settling in took a lot. It kind of took a lot longer than and probably not a lot longer, but it just put a hold on our original time frame, didn't it? I think so that it, you know, I suppose the key learning was making sure that the process of getting there is as valuable as the actual coaching activity, and ensuring that the timing is right and it's aligned with supporting that strategic element as well. I think it's, as a small organisation, the processes have really allowed us to acknowledge how important the professional development aspect is to us, to key individuals, but the entire team. Like, it would be wonderful to have this professional development. Might not be individual coaching, but we're definitely learning the importance of that. You know, the biggest reason we operate, as you saw, was to provide quality education to vulnerable youth. We're at 1,400, which is a fantastic number, but we'd love to get more. And ensuring that our staff and the leadership team are at their strongest to deliver upon it is paramount to that success. So I think, yeah, the key learnings is obviously the process, but also it's identified the importance it is to us to keep that at the forefront of our mind.
Great, thanks. So I think in the discovery there was that kind of clarity around strategy that we realised that people that needed to be a little bit clearer, so that people could then align those coaching goals and the development goals to actually meet that strategy. So
Exactly.
That was one of the pieces that unfolded. And so we've got this coaching team with coached from New Zealand, Australia, Beijing, and Singapore. And so that was one of the things, was how do you bring a coaching team together, all from different organisations, and create consistency across, give people the freedom to coach however they coach. They're all experts, they're all highly experienced coaches running their own practices, but so the freedom to coach in however they're used to coaching, but at the same time create enough consistency so that you could kind of report back key topics, making sure it would blend in somehow with the team sessions. And so those are some of the complexities that have evolved as we've been working through this. And I think another piece in this is that being able to be flexible and needing to be flexible and learning along the way and creating, like there's a lot of creating along the way in order to make sure that we have this sort of commonality, but also there's the space for people to have the freedom and shine and do their work the way they want to do it. So I think we're kind of still learning. The coaching is kicked off, and they're starting with triad sessions with their boss to make sure that there's kind of alignment on what are the coaching goals, and the coaching is on way. That the leadership sessions is now a piece. The founder, CEO coming back, you in your role as acting CEO, how does that look going forward, and wanting to start the team sessions when that is bedded down and really stable, so that who is the team and what are the roles in that team. And so there's kind of a parallel process, I think, isn't there, of the organisation building its robustness, in terms of the strategy and the structure. And
absolutely. I think it's allowed us to have a structure that we have been able to trust. And Ivan's here. We'll be quiet in a minute.
We're about to stop.
But it's been we've been very grateful to have a trusted expertise around us, which as Kevin mentioned, also fantastic to have that external resource that we can really empower us to move forward much more quickly than we would have otherwise.
Well, thank you, Helen, and thank you, Jill. Helen, it's an excellent work that you're doing there. When I first spoke to Annabelle, I was so inspired by her because she actually has conferred the Medal of the Order of Australia. And when I spoke to her, she's so humble about it. She's supporting 1,400 students. She's so humble about it. I was really inspired because she started the entire thing because she went and volunteered in Kenya, if I remember correctly. And Jill, and with Jill, Jill dragged me to 3 meetings before she actually set the meeting with you guys, and I think that gave me assurance that this project is going to be successful. Because in my role, I can't go into every single project. I'm already looking for the next project, so I know you guys are in safe hands with Jill. With that, thank you so much. I'm sorry there's no time left for questions, but just do drop your question in the chat box, and Jill and Helen will try to answer it as you still have another 10 minutes on for the rest of the session. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah. So for the last fireside chat, I'm going to talk to Walter Choi, Mr. Walter Choi, the founder of Career Hong Kong. And Career Hong Kong is a very interesting NGO because they are an NGO that is focused on helping special needs graduates in Hong Kong to kickstart their career in the market. So that picture there is actually Walter and his guide dog Range. And Walter, can you hear me?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, the interesting thing about me and Walter is that I found Walter on LinkedIn. And I reach out to him. I say, look, I'm EMCC so and so and so. We have some time. We have some people that volunteers. Would you need coaches and mentoring? And without me going too much into details, I think the way Walter runs Career as an organization is a truly coaching culture organization where they use both coaching and mentoring for their programs for their members. So Walter, just to start off, can you just briefly tell us about yourself, who you are?
Yep, sure. Thank you very much, Ivan. So actually, I love this encounter with Ivan, and it was truly amazing. So everyone, I'm Walter, and I'm a person with visually impaired. I actually born with my both eye visually impaired for around 30% eyesight when I was 3 years old, and it would deteriorate along the times. And now actually I'm legally blind. So I'm usually walking with my guide dog, but my guide dog Rangy just got retired and enjoying life very, very, very good with my with my parents, working on the gardens and hiking every day, which is great. So actually, it was because of my personal experience. So I grew up in the mainstream school, and I was very accepted in the mainstream because all of my academic, all of my schools are not at all any academic oriented. So a lot of the people gamblings and doing a lot of crazy stuff in the back of the classroom, and I'm one of the 3 students out of the 120 students really study in the class. And so actually I really being very helpful, share my answers to my fellows students and classmates. That's why I'm good friends with a lot of them. But I'm very lucky. I went to the Chinese University of Hong Kong, studying economics and minor in German. And at that time, I realized actually it was a reality, which I realized people with disabilities really having a hard time in the campus, because I need to run to different single department in order to sort out my equal participation in the university. Because back in time in 2008 to 2011, in the campus, there is not such a organizations or administrative departments to support people with disabilities to study, and even those for their student life, and also, of course, not at all for career development as well. And that's why I was inspired to think about how come there is not such a joint university student union and alumni union for the highly educated students and graduates with disabilities. So on the other side, I realized career development is super hard, because actually in the society in Hong Kong, there are not many people knowing people with disabilities can go to higher education. So a lot of them are thinking about people with disabilities are working in the shelter workshops, or actually the government would take care of it, and not even imagines people with disabilities can work in the private sector with a decent job. So in 2008, it was having a suicidal case of a hearing impaired girls, just really similar to my profile, having good scholarship, a GPA not bad, had couples of exchange experience, but she couldn't find a job and committed suicide. So it was in my first year of my education in the university. So I tried very hard to grab every single opportunities. I went to Germany to work in social enterprise and come back to Hong Kong, work into investment bank as an intern, but still find it super hard to find my first job. So eventually I got a help from a voluntary recruitment agency to place my CV into construction firms. That's how I kickstarted with my journey in HR. So eventually I don't want to see anybody fighting in their own battle with different kind of disabilities after many, many years of hard working in the academic achievement. So I set up Carry Out Association in 2014. To set up, we want to focus on ability, not disability. That's why we are first in our kinds to focus on all kinds of disabilities, including mobility restrictions, seeing difficulties, hearing impaired, people who have invisible kinds of disabilities like special learning difficulties, ADHD, autism, mental illnesses, chronic illnesses, cancer patients as well. And as long as they have tertiary and higher educations, we can support them. We support them as a recruitment agency, but free of charge, as a charity registered in Hong Kong. So we don't charge our candidates and we don't charge our employers. We raise funds from charitable foundations, family trusts, and also we are driving more corporations to tap on disability inclusion strategies as well. So that's a very quick introduction about what we are doing here.
Thank you, Walter. And just a little bit on how EMCC comes in. So we come in as coaches, voluntary coaches, to coach these candidates as career coaches. I'm personally involved as a organizational psychologist. I'm giving feedback. So Carrie also uses a psychometric tool called VIA Strength. And I'm in charge of giving the feedbacks on that strength. And one of the things that I really admire about Walter's career is that the way they run that organization is exactly how you run a multinational corporation HR. And I think that's how you benefit, these candidates of yours. Now, the question I have for you, Walter, is can you tell me how you use coaching and mentoring together to help your candidates?
Yep.
Can you describe yourself?
Sure. So actually in our programs, because actually we realize there are different gaps between our students with disabilities and graduate with disabilities and the job markets. And that's why we create a ecosystem coming from year one education to final year. And after that, they graduated and find jobs. And so we have scholarship programs, we have an internship programs, and then we do job placement 365 days. So you would imagine for a person with disabilities, when they don't know anything about business and the job market, they are very lost. So actually we decided in our internship programs, we centralize as working with over 30 and more employers in Hong Kong and place over 50 internship a year. So you can imagine our 50 candidates, they are really fresh. And then there are a few challenges. One is acceptance on their disabilities. They may not know what they can do and cannot do. It is related to their capacity or about their disabilities. So actually there are a lot of reflections, and we need to have companions and a non-judgmental conversation to help them to understand more about themselves. And second thing is their confidence, how they see themselves as a person can work in different places with their disabilities. So the self-image. So actually that is very important for coaching to get involved as a mirror to help our members to reflect themselves along the journey in their first 1 or 2 internship jobs. And that's very important. And also sometimes the third challenge is they are very shy and feel embarrassed and to voice out about their necessary accommodations because they thought the employers may not be able to accept them. So that's very important to work together with people who have business experience and having a non-judgmental, because when we are growing up as a person with disabilities, there are so many judgments telling us as a person with disabilities, you're better to become a civil servant. You're better to have a certain type of job because you're visually impaired. You cannot do something because you're hearing impaired. So that is the most important things, because we believe acceptance is very important. And the reflections could help a lot from coming from coaching. And also for mentoring, we realize actually according to a lot of like thesis and research and psychology's papers is talking about when we empower people with disabilities. And the most important thing is how to facilitate alumni mentoring. Because when they see people who have relatively similar situation, physical situation or mental situations, they can achieve something, they can have demands on their decent work, they would believe on themselves. Instead of setting out a lot of heroes and superstars that's irrelevant to them, but instead, people who have similar physical and mental conditions are very important to inspire them and to allow them to trust themselves and get how far they can go. So that's why we have a alumni unions and student union, and we utilize our alumni, which they have worked in the job market for 2 to 5 years, and to give back to the community here when they are still in school. So, but because actually leadership training, youth developments, and never really plays into rehab services in Hong Kong. So we are trying to merge the both together, and the mentoring training is very important, and where EMCC contributed a lot of knowledge sharing.
Okay, maybe I'll just cut in over there. So at this moment, EMCC is volunteering coaches. And what we have shared with Carrier is all this research work that's been done on EMCC, the resources, the journals, and the samples of case studies. So we have shared that with Walter as well on how we can develop some coaching, mentoring skills for their alumni. I'm aware of time actually, but I'd like to ask one more question to Walter. Is like, in 3 words, what do you think are the sort of coaches that you need to help special needs or disabled coaches? What do you think are the top three things that you think a coach should have when we are working with coaches that has special needs?
I think the most important 3 words would be non-judgmental, acceptance, and relate, and be able to empower them. That's the simple words. And I'm so glad that this year in our programs, we have voluntary coaches from EMCC and working together and that's to enrich our coaches, so that actually we can bring a better program together to support our member to step into the job markets.
Thanks, Walter. So I think I have time for one question from the floor. Is there anyone who wants to ask a question? To Walter, of course, not me. Okay, no, then, Walter, thank you for your time. And I think when I first met you and I spoke to you and I introduced you to Akram Sabaf, the president of EMCC APR, I think after you got off the Zoom call, Ak told this to us that everyone agrees, actually. I think the world needs more Walter. And I added that the world needs more Walter and Rangy, your dog, because he likes me too. So I like the Rangy a lot. Thank you for your time for coming up here. I know it takes a lot of effort to coordinate all these sessions. Thank you, Walter, so much for your time.
Thank you so much for inviting, and I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. See you soon, Walter. I'll come by your office. Okay, with that, I think we end the session for today. I hope I've been able to give you a glimpse of what the Social Responsibility Initiative has done so far. We have done other projects as well during the COVID until now. But what I'd like to do is like to see if any of you guys want to do some projects together, and if you want it to be in a scale that's global, or how I can be of assistance, please reach out to me. What I'm trying to do next going forward is actually to set up a kind of a system where we can help our members to initiate projects like this from pre to executing and for post project. So I'm going to start a work group of some sort post the second half of this year, so we can get some discussion going on. I'll reach out to everyone. Do look out for my email and also the posting on LinkedIn. Okay, right before we go, there's a CPD question. So the question is on your screen now. What are key messages and reflective insights you have taken from this session, and how this will influence the way in which you will practice in the future? So please do answer that question. And thank you so much for attending our session. Thank you.